Hey guys, so quite a few of you have asked me to do a tutorial on how to actually create a Google site in the classroom. This one is definitely going to be longer than the last one I did because I am going to take some time and go through kind of everything that you would be doing. So the first thing I would suggest is to always go into your Google Drive and create your website from there. So all you would do is click share, go to more, and then you would scroll down here to Google Sites, and it's automatically going to create a new Google site attached to your Google Drive. So when you create your Google site, it's going to actually be created in your Google Drive. I have a folder that I have right at the top of my Google Drive for all of my websites, so that way they're super easy to find. Okay. Once you go into here, it does take my Wi-Fi is not very good right now. That's why it's taking a little bit longer. Usually it would be a lot faster than this. So once your Google site has been uploaded, it's going to look like this. The first thing that you want to look at is what template that you want, what theme you want. So the themes can be found here. There's a whole bunch of different ones that you can choose from. And then within that, there's also different styles and fonts that you can use as well. So I'm just going to stick with, I tend to stick with things like Aristotle, and then I tend to change things from there. It just depends, honestly, depends on what type of text that you like, as well as the color choices as well. So I know a lot of people have used level before. I'm not a huge fan of yellow and gray, so I might do like a turquoise, or you can actually pick your own color as well, and maybe do like a red, a purple, a gray, whatever you want. And then what that does is that every page that you open up is now going to have this as its theme. So the most important thing here, after you've figured out what theme that you want, you then want to start inserting your main pages. So when you're creating a site, you have to really think backwards design. So I'm going to pretend like this site is for a grade 4 classroom. So I teach grade 8, but my absolute favorite grade to teach would be grade 4. So I'm just going to put Miss Scott's grade 4 class. It's my favorite in terms of curriculum expectations. I just love it. So when you create pages, the most important thing with the pages is to kind of figure out what you want your main things to be. So because I'm making this like I would an actual classroom, I want to have a page for language. I want to have a page for math. I want to have a page for health. I want to have a page for science and social studies. Those tend to be the topics in grade 4 that most homeroom or core teachers tend to teach. You might also do like drama, dance, art as well. I don't know if I would make a site for that or a page for that, but that is totally up to you. The other cool thing that you can do with this is that you can actually change the navigation to either be on the side or the top. I tend to like it on the side. You can change it. I'm going to leave it on the top so that you can see that as well. You can also make different images. And then you can change it to be white, black, or transparent. I just have it transparent so that it's the same color. But again, you could put it as black, and then your title will always be bolded at the top. So the next step, and this is kind of the most important in my opinion, is you want to decide whether or not you're going to do each subject as term-based or unit-based. I've always in grade 8 done it as term-based, and then within term-based, I do it as grade-based. So if I'm working in grade, if I'm doing language, I'm going to click here and I'm going to do add subpage, and I'm going to put term 1, and then add another subpage, and I'm going to click term 2. So again, the big thing with creating a site is that you need to think of what you want it to look like at the very end. How do you want to have it organized for your students? I have always been a firm believer that organization is very important. So for me, really, you can't make a site without a long range plan. I will write all of this, like kind of these jot notes down on the Facebook post as well so that you can see that. But honestly, a long range plan is super crucial, as well as all of your units. If you don't have all of that already organized, a Google site isn't going to help you. The reason why I can create Google sites so quickly is because I have extremely organized unit plans and I have a very well detailed long range plan, which means that I can literally just pull my long range plan out and go bing, bang, boom right through it and add in everything that I need to add in. So let's go to term one. Term one, language for grade 4. You might want to start with it. This is where it gets tricky in terms of what units you're going to be looking at. So I'm going to find my grade 4 long range plan so that I can look at it and have it. I'm going to actually show you what it looks like so that you can see it. And then that way I can show you exactly how I would do it. Okay, so here is a sample long-range plan. I actually got this idea from a very good friend of mine. I actually did my first LTO in her classroom. She is probably the most phenomenal teacher I've ever seen in my entire life, just in terms of how organized she is, what her program looks like. So I basically took her concept of long-range planning and then tweaked it to be my own, and then focused more on having it specific to term 1 language, term 2 language. So if I look at term 1 language, I can see that I have things right here ready to go. So what are they doing in reading, writing, oral communication, media literacy, all that kind of stuff? Maybe my first unit might be looking at things like making connections. When I do this in grade 8, it's very specific to units. So my grade 8s, we have it separated by writing theme. So in term 1, we do creative writing. In term 2, we do evidence-based writing. And then within that creative writing, we break it down even further. Whereas in grade 4, you might actually want to do it from like a reading strategy perspective. So maybe your first thing is you would do making connections. Okay, so making connections would be our first unit. And then if I look at my October reading strategy, it's predicting. So maybe I'm going, so notice here how I made a subpage in language. Oops, I made a mistake. I don't want it to be here. I want it to be actually linked to term 1. So if I just drag it up and I put it over term 1, it's now going to see how it's made a subpage here. This is what you want. Anything that is connected to term 1, you want it right here. The other thing I would do if I were you is I would make your pages extremely specific. So unit 1, making connections. And you'll understand why when I show you how to insert buttons, because it can get very confusing. Reading strategy 2 is making predictions. So unit 2, making predictions. Unit 3 is inferring and analyzing. Okay. And then you can either leave sequencing. So you kind of just want to decide whether or not you want to leave sequencing I would leave it for term 2. I would focus kind of more on that. So here's the most important thing. The reason why I was talking about buttons is because what I've done in the past is within this language area, so we're going to insert some text boxes and insert some things so that you can see what it looks like. I'm going to insert a text box. So these are your 4 options. You can either insert a text box, an image, you can embed a link, or you can add something directly from your Google Drive. Make sure if you're adding something directly from your Google Drive, you have your sharing settings open, because if you have it clicked as private in your Google Drive, it means that your students won't be able to actually see it on your website when you have it published. So I'm going to do a text box first. You might want to give some sort of quick blurb. A lot of the times I will discuss things like how I will assess students in language, what they will be doing in language. You might also want to discuss things like what major assignments they'll be looking at, so that they have some sort of understanding. Then the reason why I say to do this, so 2 things. 1, you want to be able to insert a button similar to how I did it before, so that they can just click on whatever unit they want to. So if you scroll down, there's tons of layouts that you can use similar to slideshows, But you can also A, add a table of contents, B, you can add a button. So the reason why I say it's very important with how you've written things down is because when you press link, once you have tons of things in here, if you name them all the same, you're not going to be able to find it. So I know I'm looking at, want to find unit 1 first. So up here, I'm going to write unit 1, making connections. And then I have my button right there. I like to have my buttons in the middle, but you can basically place them everywhere on the page. The other thing that I was going to show you is that if you make a mistake, you can just double click again. I want to use my emoji keyboard, which is this guy here. Maybe I want to add a heart to it, or maybe some books. Okay, we'll add some books and then close it, and we are good to go, and we're going to update. So now your emojis are right there as well. The other thing that is really cool about this is that you can publish it, and you can publish and unpublish over and over and over again. So if you want to see what it looks like and you want to make sure that everything is connected properly, all you have to do is click publish. I'm going to leave it as that is my web address for now. And then I'm going to click on view. So usually when I'm making a website, I have the published version and the unpublished version open at the same time. So that way I can click and see exactly what it looks like. So again, I've got my language, I've got my blurb. And then if I click on making connections, it should take me, there you go. It takes me right to the making connections unit. Okay. Now, again, this all depends on how good your long range plans are and how good your units are. If I know that I am doing making connections first as my reading strategy, my first writing piece is writing an autobiography, and my oral communication is attentive listening and vocabulary, word reading, and read alouds. And then my media is what is a media text. So what I would do with this information here is I would then go into my unit plan, and I would look at my making connections unit plan and look at what does my September actually look like. And then I would start filtering and creating lessons based on that. Okay. So again, we want to go to making. If we're looking at lessons very specific to Unit 1, we want to click on Unit 1, click on Add Subpage, and then I always do things like Lesson 1, okay? You can decide what you want to do as Lesson 1, but maybe your first lesson is just writing sentences. You can kind of make it whatever you want. Maybe my first thing is writing sentences. I might have a mentor text that I'm using that is related to getting the kids to prompt them in writing sentences, starting with an all about me writing piece, especially at the beginning of the year. By the end of this first unit, you tend to want them to be able to write a paragraph by grade 4. So paragraph writing comes into this as well. And again, we're always looking at building those buttons. So if we go back to making connections, now that we have a button, we can go insert, add button. Our first lesson, so lesson 1 was writing sentences. Now the cool thing too is that if I just write L1, anything that comes up as L1 is going to be right here. So I know that L1 writing sentences is right there. I'm going to click it, add it wherever you want. You might want to do a whole lesson on like a whole intro lesson to making connections. If that's the case, you might want to actually put in a text box or multiple text boxes. So what I do with my text boxes is I tend to have a block color in between. So I might make this my learning goal. And you can change the size of the text as well. I tend to use a header. And then maybe I make this my action or activity that they have to work on. And again, make it into a header. And then you can do one of two things. You can also just make this an introduction to making connections where you explain making connections, and then get rid of this. And right below is all of the lessons that you would actually be going into. And you would just continue to scroll them all down. Again, if I want to look at what this looks like, I'm going to press publish. Okay. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to press I'm going to upload it again so I can see exactly what it looks like. And I always like to start from the home button and go from there. So I know Unit 1 making connections is right here. Okay, good. Making connections is right here. Oh, writing sentences is awesome. So everything is working the way I want it to work. The reason why you do this is so that you don't get into a situation where you've started adding all of these sub layers to it. And then all of a sudden you're like, crap, how do I get there? How do I navigate there? Because if I don't have a button here, or I don't have a button down here somewhere, then you're not going to be able to navigate to it properly. The other really cool thing about this is that you can add Bitmoji characters as well. So you can actually go, if you have the Bitmoji extension, you can go and click whatever Bitmoji you want. The kids love this for some reason. I'm just going to click this one here. Oh, usually it works. Hold on. Okay, I figured it out. Sorry. So what you have to do when you're adding a Bitmoji is you just go here and you have to actually save it as an image first. You can't just copy and paste it in. So what I did was I just saved it. I right-clicked. So you basically just right-click on any of your Bitmojis, save it as an image, and then what you would do is you would come into here and you can either double-click and open up this browser tool and click Insert Image, or you can insert your image from here, upload it from your computer, and that actually goes in right here. So what this looks like when you're finished, so I'm just going to publish it so you can see what it looks like. And then I'm going to go here. I'm going to look at it again, and there's my Bitmoji. So for some reason, the kids just think this is the coolest thing ever, that it's personalized with your own stuff, which is kind of awesome. So it's the little things that count, right? All right, so I'm going to go back here. A couple other things that I want to show you. The other thing that I find really interesting is you can do one of two things with videos. So if you click the embed button, I'm just going to find a YouTube video related to making connections. Always make sure that you reference everything, anything and everything that you do on your website that is not yours. Please make sure that you reference it at the bottom. You don't ever want to be in a situation where you've put something on your website pretending that it's yours and then get into a lot of trouble with it. So I'm just going to look up making connections and reading, just because it's something that you might use for your kids. This one's nice and short. It's only 4 minutes. So I'm going to take this one. So two things you can do. One is you can either copy this and click embed, or I'm going to show you the difference here. You can actually embed it as a button as well. So you would just copy and paste the link here, and up here you might make it a making connections video. So I usually do this a lot when I'm making like a consolidation thing for my kids. So if we were working on, let's say, making connections, I might put this in a consolidation section where if they still need more help, they can look at whatever videos I post. So it just depends on what you would prefer. I do have quite a few videos added as well, especially for social studies, for history and geography for grade 8, but also grade 4 social studies. It's kind of cool that they have the option of having a text right here, and then you can actually insert a text box right beside it, and you could write something about it as well, which I love. So it's just kind of up to you whether or not you want to do it as an actual embedded video, or you want to make it a button where the kids have to click and go to YouTube itself. So the other thing I like about it is, let's say you're doing, so for social studies, let's say I'm going to add a subpage and I'm looking at Unit 1 as ancient civilizations, okay? When you do this, you can also embed a slideshow, which I can't remember if I have a slideshow for ancient civilizations, so I'm going to look it up and see what comes up. You can embed literally anything from your Google Drive. I'm just going to look up ancient civilizations and see what comes up. The reason why I'm saying that this is a great option is because now that we're supposed to be transitioning to Brightspace, I am like, I don't even know what I'm going to do. I have 65 gigabytes of data on my Google Drive. I have no idea how I'm supposed to download all of that so that it is accessible outside of my Google, but I would like to continue using it. So by doing a Google site, I can actually change these sites to my personal Gmail account so that that becomes the ownership, which means that I'll be able to access them even if we don't use Google anymore. So I'll probably do the same things over here. I'm just looking to see what I have available for ancient civilizations. I'm just going to use one of my kids as an example. So I'm actually going to pull this. Oh, I think this is actually mine, which is perfect. I'm going to insert. So you can actually insert a slideshow right into it. I'm just going to pull it all the way over. Sometimes it's really nice for the kids to get a good visual. The other really cool thing is that if you're at a school that has a lot of access to devices, kids that sit further back from the screen, I don't know about you guys, but my screen is very small. So I do find that the kids sometimes have trouble seeing it. So for the kids that sit at the back of the classroom, they would actually just grab a device or whatever, like whether it was an iPad or a Chromebook, and they would just log into my website and be able to follow along as I was teaching a lesson. Now, obviously, this does take a lot of classroom management off the get-go. I was very adamant that as soon as I saw them abusing the responsibility that they were given, that they would no longer be allowed to sit at the back. So it does take some time getting used to that, but it's worth it in the end when you've got responsible students in the back. So I am just going to, I think this one's actually saved as a PowerPoint. So I'm just going to go here, but I'm going to publish it so you can see what it looks like from a student perspective. So again, same thing. I just go over here. I'm going to redo this so that social studies becomes an option. So Unit 1, Civilizations, Ancient Civilizations is there. And the slideshow should show up right here eventually. Now, again, remember that your sharing needs to be open. So I have a YouTube video directly linked to my slideshow, and it will work. It actually will post. It'll open you up and redirect you to YouTube, which is kind of amazing. So you don't even have to reinvent the wheel. If you have a slideshow presentation that you really like, you can legitimately just post it. Oh, of course, it's not available. You can literally just post it right into here. So we've got learning goals, success criteria, what makes an early civilization, how are they developed. We looked at Egypt. That was kind of our starting place, was Egypt. And then we kind of just went on from there. So again, you can do that as well. So you can embed anything from your Google Drive, and it will embed as well. The other cool thing that I love about this is that you can embed external links. So last year in grade 8, we loved using quizzes. It was a very quick exit ticket. We used it a lot during school closure as well. You can either create your own quiz. You can also create a quiz by searching up the same title, and it will, or the same grade for math, and it will actually show you quizzes that have already been made for that. And you can literally pull from like multiple different quizzes, which we loved. So what you would do is you would just click on this. And then in here, so let's say I'm going to pages, I'm going to go back to ancient civilizations. I'm going to add a subpage, and I'm going to put check-in, just so you can see what it looks like. And then I'm going to insert my button. So I'm going to go here, insert the link. So you have two options here, usually for quizzes. They either give you like the full page access or like this other one here. I always click this one because you want the kids to be able to enter their code. So that's the most important. I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to click text box. This is the only thing that you have to do ahead of time, because I don't know if you guys use quizzes very often, but let's say you're doing a quiz as a homework assignment that they have to do within a week. It gives you it prompts you for a new code, or creates a new code for you as a teacher every single time. So I know that every time I open up my website, I may have to spend a little bit of time kind of going through it and going, oh, I'm doing this lesson today, I need to redo this code. So use code 1234 to access the quiz. Now, the cool thing about this is that the kids can actually access the quiz right in your website. They don't even have to go outside of your website in order to get to this quiz. All they have to do is access the link from your website. I just want to make sure this opens. Yep. Okay, I'm just going to go here to social studies. Oh, come on. Check in. Perfect. Okay, use code 1234 to access the quiz, and the link for the quiz is going to be literally right here. So once this opens, I'm just going to click enter code, and it's going to be done right in the website. You can also do this with a Google form. You can do this with a slideshow, a Google Doc, you name it. You can access everything right into here. The last thing I'm going to show you is how you can create. So again, if you're doing this from a synchronous perspective, you would be going through this lesson with the students. But then let's say you want to add some sort of teamwork suggestion here. If you go to Jamboard, you can do one of two things. So if you click on Jamboard, where is it here? So Jamboard is an interactive slideshow. So if I click a new Jamboard, I've created a whole bunch on here. I used Jamboard a lot when I was doing school closure. The kids really liked it because let's say they're doing Pythagorean theorem. I would do a tutorial video on how to actually do or use Pythagorean theorem. And I would go through like all of the steps, and the kids would watch me actually do it on the Jamboard. You can also use Jamboard for interactive and collaborative conversations between the students as well. So ancient civilizations. One of the things that I would always suggest that you do is that if you are having them, if you're writing something yourself, I would always ask that you save it as a background. So I might write a text box. Sorry, I'm going to use a text box. Come on. Ancient Egypt or ancient Rome. So I'm going to have this as my question at the top for the students to see. And then I might draw some sort of line. Wow, that was really bad. Sorry. And then I might put ancient Rome over here. And then ancient Egypt over here. So what I would suggest that you do is that you take a screenshot of this. Oh, I don't want a screenshot of that. I want this one. Sorry, it's because I have two dual screens opening at the same time. So if you download this as a PDF or save frame, so save the frame as an image. Sorry, that's what I have to do. So you want to save the frame as an image, and then you're just going to erase everything that's here. You could also just click and kind of restart the same thing. But the reason why I'm telling you to do this is because when the kids start writing on this, they can actually manipulate everything that you have on it as well, unless you save it as a background. So I'm just going to get rid of this stuff for the most of it. And then when I go to background, you can actually insert an image. Select from, it should show up in here, we'll see. And you save it. What you do is you save it as a background on your computer, so that or a background as the Jamboard, so that way the kids can't actually touch the image behind it. They just would draw on top of it. Okay, good. So it did show up as a PNG. So I'm going to open it. Okay, I've got it here. Now the kids still technically can move it at this point, but they're less likely to when the screen is the whole thing. So now the cool part about this is right now it's locked. If I open this up so that the sharing settings are not restricted, and anyone in the Peel School Board can get to it, I can then copy this link, go back to my website. Let's go back to Ancient Civilizations, go back here underneath the slideshow that we were looking at. Okay, I'm going to go back to Insert. I'm going to go to Text Box. Okay, use the Jamboard below to tell me, to give me now, obviously, in this situation, I'm not really giving them any information on ancient Egypt or ancient Rome. So obviously this question of getting them to debate which ancient civilization is better would happen after you've done the lesson on it. But again, you would just copy and paste the link in here. And I would just write ancient civilization Jamboard, and I would have it right underneath here. I'm going to pull this one right into the middle. Publish. I just want to see what it looks like, and I want you to be able to see it as well. And again, I keep going back and forth between the two of them because I want to see what my finished product looks like and whether or not I actually like what my finished product looks like. So I'm going to go to here. I'm going to go to Ancient Civilizations. And I'm going to scroll all the way down. And I want to make sure that that Jamboard is available to my students, which it is right here. So if I click on this Jamboard, the students can now see the Jamboard the same way that I can see it, which is fantastic. Now they can draw on the Jamboard. They can add Post-it notes. They can basically do whatever they want. Ancient Rome is better because 300, period. And they can just move it. They can, you can add them to wherever you want to add them. And then you can actually see what all the students are writing, give them a couple minutes, and then actually discuss all of the different conversations that we're having about which ancient civilization is better. Those would be all of the major tricks that I think that you would do. The other thing that I had said in my other tutorial was the use of Google Draw. I love Google Draw. If you've never used it before, it is such an amazing tool to make your own questions, to make your own images. You name it, you can do everything on it. And then it links directly with the Google site as well. I'm just trying to find it so you can see it, but I can't find it there. So again, when you're doing a Google drawing, you can insert basically anything over here on this side. You can insert a text box, an image, you can insert shapes. Again, you can also insert things like Bitmoji and emoji keyboards. So if I wanted to do a Bitmoji and then maybe I wanted to have a call out with it as well. So I might bring this one in. Might put it there. Maybe I put my learning goals, or I'm going to do a text box first, actually, or a call out. Okay, so I've got my learning goals here. I love downloading new Google fonts. So I always find new ones that I like, and then I add them in here. So I don't know, I could make multiple learning goals, understand Google Sites. Use Bitmoji images and text boxes, whatever. Okay. Now, what I would do if I were you, oopsies, is bring this to whatever the size of your image is, and then you're basically going to file, download as either JPEG or PNG. You could use scalable vector, but you don't need to when you're using a Google site. So now that I have my image, I'm going to go back here. I'm just going to go down here and I'm going to do insert image. I'm going to upload it because it's now downloaded to my computer as I think I did a JPEG. And then I'm going to add it directly into my website. As you can tell from my downloads, I do this a lot. Okay, and then you can size it to be whatever size that you want. Obviously, this is something that we want to make pretty big if it's our learning goals section. Sorry, my Wi-Fi is super slow today. Okay, so there is my Bitmoji character and my slideshow. I'm just going to open that so it's centered on the page. Good. And then I'm going to publish it because I want to see what it looks like from the student perspective. And then I'm going to just redo this. And I'm going to go back to language term 1 so I can see exactly what it looks like. And there it is. So again, it's really easy to see. Google Drawing is awesome because you can add so many different things to your Google site that you can't in just the template-based sites. So that would be using Jamboard, using Google Sites, embedding things like quizzes, slideshows, even Google Docs. So if you've got an assignment that you've already created as a Google Doc, instead of retyping the assignment for the students to see, you literally just insert that Google Doc and the kids can see it right then and there. Yeah, that's about it. The only other thing that I would suggest is that you create a Bitly. It's just a shortened user or a shortened web browser name. That way the kids can easily find it. And you need to make sure the one big thing is making sure that you have your site published so that the kids can see it. If you don't click publish after you've done something, you can lose some of your work. So just constantly publish as much as humanly possible so that you don't lose any of your assignments. If you have any other questions, just either PM me or comment below and I can answer them. I think that I've kind of gone through most of it. I am definitely still learning this as I go as well. I'm learning new things kind of every time I'm opening up my phone and looking at Pinterest or TikTok or YouTube, and then I'm adding those into my websites as well. Okay. Thank you for listening. I know this one was a lot longer, but I hope for those of you that have never made a Google site before that it was more informative. All right, thanks.